ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon here inside our Newhouse studios in Syracuse, New York. Max Gifford, Nico Horning.
I'm not here. Nico Horning.
No, you're not. You're not Nico. You're Max. You're also my roommate here. I've known you the last couple of years.
This is true.
We're joined by a special guest, Andrew Catalon, CBS Sports play-by-play announcer and Syracuse alum. Happy to have you with us here, Andrew. Thanks for taking the time.
This is great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So. We had a little break there on Q Sports Talk to kind of, recap the last couple of weeks of what you've been up to. But, you just wrapped up NFL season on CBS a few weeks ago. Now you get to sit back, watch a couple of the playoff series the last couple of weeks. How does that calendar year in the late fall and I guess early new year, how does that result for you just overall throughout the year?
Yeah, I would say, Nico, that football is certainly the busiest time. As you guys know what it takes to prepare for a football game every week, and I'm doing 18 consecutive weekends in a row. So, it's a lot. I love it. But, at the end of the regular season after week 18, it's nice to kind of kick back a little bit and have a couple of weeks. And now I'm starting to get into college basketball. I'll do 2 games a week on CBS and CBS Sports Network right into March Madness. And then that's when things kind of slow down for me in the spring and summer. I do pinch hit on golf tournaments. I'll be at the Masters again, which I've done the last several years. But, I kind of catch my breath in the spring and summer before preseason football with the Buffalo Bills rolls around again in August. So that's kind of my calendar year. And there's no doubt that the fall with NFL is the busiest, yet one of the more fun times I have all year.
Definitely. I was going to kind of go off of that. So you got spring, summer, you got hoops, and then you got March Madness. You have some PGA that you dive into, of course, before football season. Do you have a favorite sport? Can you even consider a favorite sport at that point, or are you just kind of ready once the time hits for that certain sport to kind of move on?
I think they all kind of fit me well going back to Syracuse. I mean, at WAER, I announced football, basketball, and lacrosse games. So I'm still doing football. I'm still doing college basketball. No more lacrosse, but the golf has been something I've really enjoyed. I play it myself. I'm not very good, but I enjoy playing it. And, I love being in an NFL booth every Sunday. That growing up as a kid, I would watch games every Sunday, like I'm sure you guys do too. So that's certainly a dream. But, March Madness is an unbelievable event. And being at the Masters and calling PGA golf is certainly something that I've enjoyed even more than I thought these last couple years. So I'm very fortunate to do the sports I do. And I think that they all kind of fit me well.
That's so awesome to have a little change of scenery.
Andrew, I want to talk about that kind of the versatility you have, because you were here at Syracuse, you did WAER. How did Syracuse sort of prepare you, or how did you prepare at Syracuse to kind of make yourself so versatile to call these different sports?
Yeah, I think that I just, like everyone else there, you do everything, right? You do a little radio, you do TV, you do podcasting, you do internships, you call games. I mean, I can tell you the things I did at Syracuse, from trying to find AHL scores for the Syracuse Crunch intermission report, to working at WAER, to interning at WTVH. I mean, I called Auburn Doubledays baseball games. I think my motto has always been, and it's true for so many of us, is just you do everything you can, especially at a young age, and you see where the chips fall. So, there was never really a situation, after college that I hadn't really experienced. I just feel like Syracuse prepared me so well, both in the classroom as well. I mean, I remember, teachers interfering with live shots, and that was, part of the homework that day was how would you handle someone. I remember Professor Tui was like grabbing my ankles one day in a class, and I had to keep focused to keep doing the live shot. So there's so many things that, that Syracuse, both in the classroom and in the community, prepared me for. And I've always kind of felt that, there's nothing they could throw at me that I couldn't handle.
Definitely. Well, you mentioned the Crunch, and we both intern for them right now as sophomores here at the school. So that's been a great experience. But it's funny just hearing alumni, do the same outlets or do the same things that we're now doing, and how it really evolves into a career. So what was kind of the biggest takeaway from your versatility at Syracuse that's prepared you for doing, 3 or 4 different sports now with CBS?
Well, Nico, first of all, I'd say your internship is probably a lot different than mine, because mine was in the late 90s, and you couldn't just go online and find out the score of the games. I remember having to call the press box of the games to try to find out the score. So that's how old I'm getting now. I'm 44 years old, and that seems like ages ago. But no, I mean, just, the versatility part, it's just, I just feel like I didn't know much about lacrosse when I went to Syracuse, and that was something I had to learn. And there was other sports after school that after I graduated, that I didn't know much about, like curling, that I had to figure out on the fly. And I think that you just have that attitude that you're going to do whatever it takes to learn the sport and do the research and do the homework, and you'll be fine after that.
So focusing on sort of some of your big three, you talked about football, basketball, and golf. I know this past year, I think one of your most memorable calls was FDU Believe It for that Purdue game. I know we had kind of an interesting memory with that, because I came on this show and I said if Purdue gets the 1 seed, there's no shot they're losing to a 16th seed. And I watched the entire game because FDU went up 2-0. And I was like, oh, they're winning. I'm going to keep watching because you know what? They're in the lead right now. And I listened to your entire broadcast. How did FDU Believe It become, that call for you? Because obviously a call that will be played forever in March Madness lore and history. Every One Shining Moment video ever in history will remember that and will have that call. So how did that become, how did that come to fruition?
Well, I would just say that it took me a long time I didn't want to get overexcited in the first half. Like, as you said, it was 2-0. I mean, we've seen this story before where the underdog hangs around, and then the favorite eventually pulls away. So I would say that for the entire first half, I just called the game. I wasn't thinking like, okay, this could be it. This could be the moment. I was just staying in the moment. And then I remember at halftime texting 3 of my friends, all 3 of who went to Syracuse, and just almost jokingly said, FDU Believe It, because I didn't believe it at that moment that was going to be the story at the end of the game. And they wrote back and they're like, yeah, that's actually pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then sure enough, when there was 8 minutes left in the second half, that's probably when I first started believing, this could happen. They could win this game now. And with 4 minutes left on that under 4 timeout, I thought, you know what, I'm not like a guy to script things out. But at the same time, for everything you just said, this is, if they win, it's going to be a call that's going to be played a long time, forever and ever. And I want to make sure that, I deliver it and don't just fumble through it. So I just kind of kept circling back in my head to that text message I sent to my friends. And that turned out to be the final call. And now it's a crazy moment. I mean, what I remember, too, is just, you call the game, it's history, and you're thinking, how could anything top that? But I still had one more game to call that night, and it was Memphis, Florida Atlantic. It turned out to be an unbelievable game. I mean, there was no part of me that I was going to walk away after that night not thinking about what FDU had just done. But at the end, I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't, just kind of punt on that game, because that was an unbelievable game, unbelievable finish. So it was a really memorable day. And obviously the FDU win is something that, was a great moment for our crew, for CBS, for Turner, and we'll never forget it.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned some of those phrases and calls that they happen on the moment, you come up with them at halftime, you don't script them out. I think everyone's got their own way of doing it for those final calls, right? When you experience something like that and it hits, what's that moment like for you, knowing that it is going to be played for a while, and that feeling of like, okay, I did it, it sounds good, and now I get to replay it and listen to that call for years and years?
Yeah, I would say more, it's not I did it, right? I mean, what I feel most proud of when I walk away from that is we did it. We as a team, my analyst, the producer, the director. That's not a cliche. It's just, there's so much that goes into a broadcast, as you guys know, when to roll in the moments, when to take the shots of the Purdue bench, the strategy that we talk about. I mean, I just remember walking away from that game and hugging everyone that worked on the broadcast, because we were all just proud of not just that we were a part of it, but just how we covered it. And that's my big takeaway. Is I think I said this to some of the guys last week. Like, when you're in college, you think about your resume reel and how you sound and how you can get better. And that's fair. I was the same way. But I quickly learned after graduating that it's really about we. It's how you guys sound together. It's how your show right now, it's not like you each are one against one. It's the two of you. And that's so true in television too. And it's not just me and the analyst. It goes so much deeper than that with everyone in the truck. That's my big takeaway after a moment like that, is just how we all came together and delivered something we were proud of.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, as you talk about some of those big moments, you have a lot of guys in your class specifically at Syracuse who have had some pretty big moments. You can talk about Robert Ford. You can talk about Damon Amendolara, who does sports talk radio. You can even talk about Professor Olivia Stomsky, who's here at Syracuse right now. How is it to have such a incredible class around you in your time at Syracuse?
You know what? I think Olivia, to me, is at the top of the list, and everything that she has done at Syracuse and Newhouse, we are so proud of her. I'm so happy for her. She has really just, I think, been a big part of Newhouse's continued success. But you're right. We're all friends, too. I mean, that's the cool part. I mean, I think that, I still talk to Damon every day pretty much on text. So, we're all still so close, and it's like those are the relationships you remember from Syracuse. I mean, yeah, I remember calling the press boxes of AHL games, but the fact that I'm still talking to everyone that you just mentioned is really what makes Syracuse and Newhouse so special.
And I mean, speaking of Robert Ford, he was here last week or the week before, just kind of giving his feedback and critiques on just the whole career and his career with the Astros, how he got there, and some of his calls. It was cool to listen to and meet him as well. And your class is, I mean, obviously just it's a great class of just people that are really into it, really giving back to us students, and I think it's awesome. I know we met at the WAER Hall of Fame when you got inducted last year, and that was awesome. Congratulations once again. And you've been just nice enough to give me some feedback and critiques on my own work, and I think that is such a huge part here at Syracuse as a whole, is just people giving back. So as far as your advice goes for just students trying to break into the business right now, or even as they progress in their college years, what's the biggest thing that you have looking back at your own college experience?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it before, but I would just say that I never turned down an opportunity, right? I mean, I always said yes to whatever the case may be, and I mentioned some of the things I did at Syracuse, but that kind of motto has served me well both in school and then after school. When I keep saying after school, like it's an after-school activity, I mean like after graduation. I think you guys know what I mean. There's tons of times I've been offered, as I mentioned, some random sports to announce that I knew nothing about, instead of just kind of dismissing it and saying, what is that going to do, or what's that going to lead to? I always just said yes, because, the more reps you get, the better you'll be. We know that, but also you never know who you'll meet across the way, and you'll never know what an opportunity leads to. And in my time, I mean, I remember doing a curling show, and didn't really know what the sport was. And then I'm obviously yada-ing this story in the Seinfeld world, but I went from announcing a random curling event to doing 2 Olympic curling stints with NBC. So I never would have thought back then that one little 2-hour curling show would have led to that, but it did. And that's why I tell everyone who's in your position, guys and girls, to just keep saying yes to every opportunity, because you never know what might happen after that.
And kind of in line with that question, we've talked about it a couple times when we have other guests on, but if you were looking back at yourself and you were 20, 21 years old again, what advice would you give your own 20-year-old self?
I would just say kind of what we said before about, it's not just about me when I'm putting that tape together when I'm in college. The quicker that I learn that it takes a team to put on a broadcast and put on a radio show or whatever the case may be, I think that would have helped me out a little bit more. Not that I was a bad teammate or a bad guy to be around, but I just feel like I kept thinking singularly a lot, and now I that's the opposite of the way I think, and I think that has helped me, because in this business there's so many people that want to do what we do, and nobody wants to work with someone who isn't a good team player, who isn't thinking about the team first. So again, not that I was like that, but that would be my advice, just to reiterate to myself when I was 20 years old and probably a little too immature to be up there in Syracuse, that there's more to it than just me.
Yeah, great advice, great advice. Nico Horning, Max Gifford with Andrew Catalon from CBS Sports. We're going to take a break here, and if you're listening to Q Sports Talk, you can stay with us here on the stream. Otherwise, we'll be right back on ESPN Radio.
At Hummel's Office Plus, our...
Cool. Thank you. Do you need one more... we need one more break again? Or...
Yeah, we need one more break.
Okay.
There's really only going to be time for you guys to rejoin and then kind of like wrap.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
We might take a minute or two into the next show. Just accidentally with Nate.
Yeah, we might.
Yeah, it's all good. So,
I'm just going to throw
yeah.
this out there. I don't particularly mind. Just let the next guys know what happened. But what we did for you is I took out a couple of promos to give you more time to burn.
Okay.
You can try to keep it under 60 seconds or so in return. That's cool. If you're very confident that fan you'll be able to be cool with it, you guys know better than I do, so just roll with it. I just don't want them to be upset, but you guys have your best done, so they can understand that's what's wrong.
Cool. Thanks,
Perfect.
Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, guys, don't worry about
right.
me. Like whatever you need to do, I'm cool with it. So don't worry about that.
Okay. No, it's all good. Andrew, getting into this this game on Sunday, you know, what jumps out to you right off the bat between the Niners and Chiefs? What excites you?
I think it's a huge game for Kyle Shanahan, right? I mean, I think that I've admired his work for a long time. I think he's a fantastic coach, but I kind of feel like it's his time to win one here. So, it's hard to pick against Mahomes and the Chiefs. They've been in this spot so many times, but I'm curious to see the kind of game plan that Kyle Shanahan puts together.
Yeah, that's that.
I was gonna say
I agree.
We couldn't put it any better. We talked about all the amazing storylines in this game. I personally think it's going to be the most watched Super Bowl ever in history, and I don't know if you can echo that, but I think there's so much riding on this game with all the different storylines that I think so many people will want to tune in to watch.
I totally agree. I mean, I feel like Vegas and Taylor Swift, Chiefs dynasty, San Francisco trying to break through. I think there's a lot of great elements to make up what could be an incredible rating. And the ratings have been, fantastic throughout the season and the playoffs. So there's nothing that indicates that would slow down now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, we'll bring it back on and then we'll talk some more. We got about 25 seconds.
I mean, one quick thing before we go back to break, though, because you mentioned that Super Bowl being in Vegas. Would you have ever expected it to be in Vegas when you were maybe a young broadcaster going up?
Probably not, right? I mean, that wasn't something that ever was an issue when I was growing up.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Closing up shop here on Newhouse Afternoon with Nico Horning. I'm Max Gifford and joined by CBS play-by-play broadcaster Andrew Catalon. Andrew, we had a great conversation in for the last 20 minutes or so. We can't thank you enough for coming on. You've been so helpful to both Nico and I as both broadcasters and just people as well, just teaching us how to be good people. I think that's what stands out about a lot of you Syracuse guys and a lot of the Syracuse alum is just how good of people you are in addition to being such good broadcasters.
Well, that's nice of you to say. And, there's so many good people that treated me well when I was in your position. So that's the least I can do is return the favor, and I'm happy to do it. And I'm really proud of you guys. The show sounds great, and I look forward to maybe coming on again down the road.
Definitely. Thank you, Andrew, for the time. Stay tuned, everyone, for Nate and Karen coming up next. We'll keep Andrew on the call here for just a couple of minutes on Q Sports Talk. But if you're on ESPN Radio, we'll be back in a few minutes with the next hour of Newhouse Afternoon.
Shep Family Funeral.
All clear? All right. Cool. Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, Andrew. No, thank you for jumping on.
Yeah,
here.
of course.
We got carried away with the time talking to you.
I was gonna say none of us were even looking at the time.
I know. I was not looking at the time at all. It was awesome. So
that's
a good problem.
Happy to do it again down the road.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Last year it was actually our first guest ever was Joe Buck, and there was a Syracuse Crunch
pretty good
game.
First guest.
It was pretty awesome. It was the second half hour of the show. We were only slated to have him for half an hour, but he kept talking. We had so many more questions that we accidentally went into the Crunch broadcast.
Oh, that's right.
That's great. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is. If they want it, you guys can come in here. Do you have a favorite? Well, do you have a few favorite NFL stadiums that you like calling games in for the experience or the fans or the weather or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's like how good is the booth? Like, what are my sight lines? But in terms of atmosphere, I'd say Buffalo and Baltimore are two of the best. I do the Bills preseason game, so I spent a lot of time there, especially in the summer. So I've gotten used to being up there. But those are two of the better ones.
That's awesome. So I'm a Broncos fan, so I have to ask you, how's Denver? How's Mile High?
I mean, the crowd and the fans are incredible. The booth itself's a tiny bit high, but no, it's a great place to go. I love going there too. Yeah.
That's cool.
And then I think probably one of the most historical venues, and you could argue you could call it a venue, but Augusta National Golf Club, you get to go there every year. How's that experience?
I mean, it's probably my favorite week of the year. It's an unbelievable place to be. So many colleagues, we're all together, which is rare. Usually we're just traveling game to game, so you don't see a lot of the people you work with. But that week you do. They all come down. They're all there working. So it's a blast.
That's great. Cool. We're gonna let Nate and Kieran jump on the mic here. Andrew, thank you for coming on. We'll talk again soon. We'll have you on again for sure. And good luck the rest of hoop season.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Thanks, you too.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.